Good weekend, citizen. It's Poddington here with your Helldivers 2 news for the week of the 22nd of April. This week we have both grave and great tidings on the war against our freedom. The end of last week, Helldivers were fighting two fronts as the Men-Kent line in the west became contested and the Terminids in the east had broken free from their farms. High Command gave Helldivers the choice of which operations were most important, knowing that any outcome would have dire consequences. Helldivers had early in the week split their forces, with a fortified garrison staging counterattack operations from the Hydra sector, whilst another force completed the major order to replenish E710 reserves by killing 2 billion Terminids. A simple task to complete, but with the Automaton shadow stretching far and fewer Terminid numbers, there was doubt that the major order could even be completed, and the concern that ground would be lost whilst it was attempted. Odds to Helldivers appeared to mean nothing, and the major order to kill 2 billion Terminids was completed in just over 12 hours. Reserves overflowing, Helldivers once again regrouped and pressed on the Lassail and Andromeda sectors, with the aim to sever supply lines that would end the Automaton push once and for all, but the Automaton vanguard proved resilient and opened a third front on the Trigon sector. The seemingly endless Automaton numbers once again put Helldivers and SEAF into a difficult position. If they liberated Charon Prime in the Andromeda sector, it would minimize the Automaton assault on the Trigon sector and allow Helldivers to surround the planet of Marfark. This would secure Andromeda and cut off one of the heads into Hydra, all but solidifying the Men-Kent line. The other two heads led into Lassail with attacks on Lasaf and Chort Bay, which held the bulk of the Automaton advance. But before victory in the west could be complete, the Terminids broke free from their containment and started to spread in the east with assaults on Mirren and Draco sectors. Once again, having to split an already split force, Helldivers dispatched to the Eastern Rim to put down the Terminid insurgents. Leading into the week of the 22nd of April, the battle continued with ground both won and lost as the tide of war ebbed and flowed. Whilst Helldivers were split defending and counter-attacking on four fronts, Automatons were trying to break our resolve with a major push into the Hydra sector. During their assault on Vernon Wells, Automatons managed to knock out a long-range communications array used to track SEAF and Helldiver forces across the galaxy. With us blinded to the progress on battlefronts, the Automatons then pushed on Men-Kent. Helldivers were able to quickly halt the Terminid momentum, but the damage was done with much ground lost to the Automatons. Helldivers struggled to reclaim Virilia 5 and Vernon Wells, leaving the Men-Kent line all but shattered, but the light of liberty shines brightest when the day is at its darkest, because as overstretched as the Helldivers were, so were the Automatons, and the citizens of Super Earth that choose to defend our democracy do not dive into the sugar plum fairyland, but dive into hell, and that is where they're most comfortable. And after a long and grueling fight, the robot horde retreated. TC systems in the east also helped to minimize the Terminid outbreak, and so with communication arrays up and running once again, we were able to take a moment to breathe, take stock, and consider what happens next. Called Operation Legitimate Undertaking, Helldivers looking to exploit the Automaton retreat were tasked with liberating Chuhei and Penta in the Lassail sector. Both planets were used to manufacture experimental weaponry that, if we could free, would help in the overall war against our enemies. The Automatons, though, were not making it easy, with a renewed attack against Men-Kent through Lassail, heavily defending both Chuhei and Penta. With a narrow window for success, it seems Helldivers will now have to choose between Chuhei and Penta, with either the MD-17 anti-tank mines or the RL-77 Airburst rocket launcher being made available for support. Both of these weapon systems would prove invaluable to the fight to come, and so the choice is once again on the Helldivers. For now, we will have to wait and see, but whatever the outcome is, it will mean a lot of dead robots. That is all we have for this weekend. I hope you enjoyed this coverage of Helldivers 2 news, and if you did, please like and subscribe and share your thoughts below, and I will see you next week. And now for your local news.